Hey there, Dengo Stu here. Today's video is all about this and is proudly sponsored by MarineEngine.com. As you can see, the engine's finally back in Renko, so let's go back a week or so and see the process.
With the Detroit diesel safely dropped off at Rob's, my job for the following day was to convince Pedley to help me tow Renko up to the oyster sheds.
I suppose I should get a milk crate and just level it up, shouldn't I?
That would have been easier in the water.
It's got a pretty big keel.
My best job is being ballast.
Look,
I told you, pedals.
is that it?
That's all I got.
Bloody hell. Are you ready?
Eddie.
Here we go. 2.
Come get your butt up here. Add some weight.
Here we go. Oh,
Yes.
it is fast.
It's all that Yorkshire pudding.
Yes.
Yeah, we're done.
Thank you, Phil.
That's it.
Dave and I are going to tow this up now. Just getting this centered. So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of it. So go half. 1, 2. That should be centered. Done. Jumping on with you.
Okay.
So the mooring's off. Is it? Well, it's kind of. Hang on.
Hop on.
Alright, come on mate. Let's go. Get an engine back in you.
How's my bow then?
That's looking good, mate. With your decky skills, what could possibly go wrong?
That's what they say at work.
Wait to see the engine though, it looks pretty good.
Is this still recording?
It's alright, turn up. Actually, seaplanes have the lowest of the give way on the coal regs.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
Particularly give way to vessels towing.
Yes.
That's a funny looking seaplane too. It's not one of the...
Is it a private one?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's got my numbers on the street.
I know.
Drop off.
I reckon it's an illegal shipment of oysters from Colombia. Now he's turning in front of us.
Is he going to go all the way around?
Mate, you serious? Do you have rear vision mirrors, mate? Do you have those days where you just go, you know what?
It's like, oh, this is going to hurt.
Some days just don't seem as normal as others. Going for the takeoff. I don't think he had any idea we were there. Yeah. Yeah, into the wind. Now he's done a loop, he's going to strafe us. Bet you he drops the torpedo.
Yeah. Turn.
Now. Is that you, Tom Hudson? Slept on the boat last night just to keep an eye while it was at anchor. Got our bilge pretty clean, but I am also going to just throw a few of these mats in position underneath just in case, you know, even just spills while I'm filling it time to time, that kind of thing. Another slightly rainy morning. Don't think it's supposed to be too bad though. Unfortunately, the river's closed for oysters at the moment due to all the rain we've had and the salinity dropping. It's just there to tempt us. Got Adrian on mud duty.
I know it's tight, just let me have a look so I can see what I...
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely got to come jib out a bit still.
Yep, righto. That's alright, yeah, alright. So
I think we're pretty close.
So it should go very close to going in on that angle.
I think so. Yeah. I might actually just disconnect that battery lead. I reckon it might hang up on that.
Yep.
So I might just disconnect that.
Righto.
Lorenzo, who you met before when we were doing the transom on the Tangerine Dream, which has been running beautifully. Martini. Still there, Martini, yes.
Yep, still floating.
Still floating.
Falling off the back. Which
exactly, is excellent. We're going to have a go at aligning this engine first. Nothing's connected yet, but we figure, I've got to fabricate the exhaust, so it may as well be in the exact position. It's minor, but you know, may as well be, and it means there's less things in our way. So we have multiple feeler gauges and a couple of sets of spanners, or actually sockets and ratchets. So we'll get one side each and see what we see and go from there, I guess.
You're in the harder side to get into. You're the skinny bugger.
That's it. Gonna fit.
I'm a Spider-Man my way into this.
Yeah, that's it.
You're right. You can't get in without a half.
No getting in when you're...
Although, you know, you don't have to worry about that around a Cummins.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Yeah, not a problem you're going to have with a Cummins.
Heaps of room. Luxury.
Once you're in, it's fine once you're actually in.
You could, you can check out, but you could never leave.
Yeah,
well, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it's way off, isn't it? So it's definitely got to come your way a million miles.
Yep.
So let me just crank my bolts this side.
Actually, probably even more. It's probably closer to about 8 now.
I know, it's quite a bit, isn't it?
And this was the problem with the engine last time, was it just wasn't quite flush enough.
Yes.
I don't want to make the same mistake twice.
No, well, last time we had that flexible coupling there and that made it a nightmare. So this one should go a bit more smoothly this time.
Inch by inch, like a gentleman.
So, the other thing to make sure is that your engine mounts are moving across instead of leaning.
So they should shift.
Yeah, are you
purely laterally
moving? Yeah, physically shifting, like sliding along.
Let's have a look here.
If not, we'll probably have to give them a little bit of a lever or something. Is that moving at all, or?
There we go.
Yeah, move a bit.
Yeah, baby.
Cool. All right.
Much better. And that's actually...
Ooh, it's getting pretty good. Yeah, right. That's okay. Yeah, it is a bit too far.
I can always correct it.
Yeah.
The bolts haven't even engaged yet.
And then we got to definitely come down. Well, I've got to say, when it's level, when it's got this, it's right in this direction. I've got other work to do, so I'm actually happy to let it settle a few more days.
Yeah, you've got to. Because it's looking relatively flush from this angle. How's it looking on your side?
Feels
Do you want
pretty
to
good.
push
Yeah.
it a bit further? I reckon it's pretty good.
Let's have a look.
Just need to drop it down a little bit.
Actually, no, I think it's still too far my way. Against the shaft here I can. So I can fit a 0.2 in the top, but it stops about here.
Here it's more difficult, so
Yeah.
it's just that top section.
Just the
there,
top. So
underneath.
anyway, that's heaps better. So I reckon I'll let it settle for a bit, and then do a double check.
Do you want to pass me the breaker bar?
Yeah, cheers. Calipers.
Lever.
Done. Now Lorenzo and I have the engine aligned and bolted down. I'll check it again before we fire up, but I think it's good just let it settle for a week in somewhere pretty close to the right position. Now I'm going to work on the exhaust. I'm going to have a new straight pipe up, so we won't have, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections at the moment. That'll just be one, so it'll look much nicer. But I'm going to start by taking it all out, because we also have this 90 degree here. I want to start with the blank slate. I want to make the extension to the exhaust manifold, you know, without any sort of preconceptions about how it's going to work. So I'm going to take everything out. We'll make that the best way we can, ideally to get a little bit of a flex joint in this time. Yeah, got it. I should probably put the alternator on so I know exactly how much room I've got. I think that makes a lot of sense as a first step. Although Adrian and I are talking about putting a PTO alternator off the back of the engine purely because it's not as easy to do that with a Cummins. No other reason really. So let's get the alternator on for now and see where we have to go. This old bolt is pretty ratty, so in the spirit of everything looking much nicer now, let's put a new bolt in. Okay, I'll go find the alternator belt now and we'll see how far it goes back, which will dictate what angle the bracket is at and whether we need to make a new one. So belt, 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 tension, hitting the bolt. That's interesting. All I gotta do is swap it around, but unless the other bolt was just a tiny bit shorter. Interesting. All right, let's rotate it so it's pointing out the other way. Belts like this, you don't want to make them super tight. If you do, you put a lot of side loading on bearings and you really wear the bearings out. It's like a motorcycle chain, that kind of thing. Tight enough to not slip, but loose enough that you don't burn up your bearings. I think there's no way we're going to clear the alternator unless we do that, so I think it's a bit of a no-brainer that we have to cut this one. I think this is going to be really tricky. Just sneak up on it, do a cut, reinstall it, see how we go. Up and down, tack weld. Slept like a log last night, first time in a while. I think having the engine back in the boat's doing me the world of good. Anyway, what we're going to do now is cut one sector off this pipe just to change the angle slightly so we don't end up hitting our alternator. To do this, I've decided I'm just going to put it in the corner of the bench, and then we should get a bit of a theoretical center point, and then if we measure across there, it should give us the sector we need to not make the pipe oval shaped. So let's do that. What would be good for this is some sort of laser, but anyway, looking straight down. Daffy, enough. Enough. Oh. See what I got to put up with. You, keep it down. Enough. Actually, I do have to fix this. The corner of our house I built on a tree stump about 15 years ago, and it's slowly rotting away. I should do something about that, shouldn't I? Looks like it's even shifted. Oh, look at that. That whole corner of the house is actually just floating. I'm amazed that corner hasn't sagged. It's actually quite a big span. Is that what you were alerting me to? Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, get those off. Knock that pin through. Business. I add structural engineer to my resume and Daffy adds building inspector. Good morning. All done. Congratulations on your promotion. So we will cut to the outside line here, give it a little bit of a bevel again for welding, take it back out to the boat, see how it fits. Shh. I'm not going to bevel it yet because if the angle's wrong then I've wasted my time, so we'll check the angles. When it's right, bevel it, weld it. Alright, a few other things on the go. This is the flow sensor bung, now welded straight to the outlet of the heat exchanger. So no more pipe, hose clamp, hose clamp, you know, bung. And on top of that, it used to be in this orientation and it is supposed to be in this orientation to work effectively. Also here, cut and painted up a board that I'm going to install against the port fuel tank, and that's where I'm going to mount the fuel filters. TIG welder's not working, got a problem with the gas, but down on 25 amps I can stick weld it. Where there's a bit of a gap, I've started doing a bit of stick welding, which is just stick welding with TIG filler rod. So we'll see how that goes, get all the way around and I'll show you the end result. Took a bit of trial and error to get it dialed in, but some bits actually came out okay, particularly given how thin it is. Newly cut exhaust. Oh yeah, clears it by a country mile now, that's good. Yes, you know, it's a bit of heat close to the alternator, but it will be wrapped and it's only temporary, i.e. the alternator's only temporary. Alright, this is the stainless pipe I welded up at home. What we need to do is have a look. So if we turn it away and down a smidge, hopefully there's a little bit sticking up still, there is. That looks pretty good, to be honest with you, maybe around a little bit more. Let's mark them. I'm going to take all this home, tack weld it, bring it back, see if we can make it work. If so, take it back home and weld it out. The only reason I'm running back home all the time is because I can't easily drive this to a wharf for power and the generator's no longer on board and it weighs a ton. So it's actually easier to make these trips than it is to get the generator back on board at the moment. I was up at Mike's from She'll Be Right Garage working on Sleazy, the LTD, yesterday, but back now, and I'm now just going to grind a bevel on the pipes and then weld them up. We'll actually tack them in place with our marks lined up. I didn't do this cut very straight, but it doesn't matter, fortunately, because this now has a little internal bit going in here, so we'll get that square. I may as well weld that out entirely because obviously it's completely round, so there's no such thing as a wrong orientation. It's a bit nasty. That's actually a blister I got for being forced to wear shoes in Bunnings yesterday. Policy's supposed to stop you getting injuries, but it causes them. Alright, didn't come out too badly. Certainly won't leak any gas, and it's not structural. These stainless rods, they're quite nice to weld with. I mean, you look at them. This packet's been on the boat and they've sort of gone a bit chalky or whatever. They're probably a year old, been open for a year, but they still go alright. Okay, let this cool a little bit. Obviously everything else is just tacked. Test fit, come back, weld it out, paint. So the answer to the test fit is not even close. It's actually hitting here. So we need to get this one and rotate it that way. I would say probably not much. I think a small amount's going to make a big difference. So we need to take this one and rotate it that way. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're only trying to redirect this probably 5 degrees or something. This is the up pipe going to the muffler. I'm going to cut 15mm off this. I'm going to attach a short length of flex hose to it, which is going to go over here. And I'm going to wrap this with the fiberglass tape, which is our welded and painted exhaust sort of pipe coming out of the manifold. And then we'll put it all together. On my new mate Gary from Performance Mufflers down Hornsby Way, on his advice, I'm going to use this high temperature RTB copper rather than Mani Seal on here, and then we're going to put a bit of this flex on here first and we'll slide it into this one. There we go. Okay, let's put a bit of sealant on the exhaust flange gasket. I'm glad Adrian put these 2 studs on. Certainly makes life a lot easier. Getting there, at least it's started. That's always the hardest part. So alright, well, that kind of fell in then. It actually took me by surprise how easily it went in. So that's kind of good. I do not have another clamp for here yet, but that's okay. I've got to run up the road anyway. So let's get our RTV smoothed off, get the fiberglass tape wrapped around, then I'll just open a hose clamp and wrap it round. Alright, I'm going to leave that cloth tape there for now, get one more hose clamp here and then keep wrapping. This is a 1.5 inch barb to a 2 inch BSP, which is the reducer I need. I think I should have just bought a 1.5 inch barb without the reducer, because then it could have actually just gone on the inside here. But anyway, I think if we grind this lip off, this will actually fit inside there. So let's do that, braze it up. Won't be super pretty, but I want to get this boat going, I really do. Yep. How are you, mate?
Alright.
That's the way. Do you want me to move the inflatable back a bit or something? And
Where?
yeah, just untie it from there. You use that cleat and I'll move mine back and then we'll get you closer in. No, I'll take mine forward. You go there so you need to do it.
Shall we dance?
Shall we dance? Yeah, exactly. Take mine. Should go this again.
Oh, that looks plain to me.
Yep. Sticky grease in it. They seem to wrap like hydraulic fittings. It stops rust hydraulically, I think.
Oh, okay.
But just this big, thick, sticky tape. Forcing out the salt air. Here's that board I made up at home. I'm just sort of positioning the fuel filters, and this is going to be a freshwater pump. So what I think I'll do, these Vitus filters are quite configurable on this manifold, so I'm going to change the blanking plug to this end and have the in and out come from that end, which will probably let us mount them at the same height. Just tighten the bolts up for the water pump, and then let's get this thing installed, get some fuel to the Detroit. Alright, I got the board installed. I won't show you that footage because it's basically just 30 minutes of me swearing, but it is in. The inlet fuel line from the tank can be a bit shorter, so let's cut it about here and pop it on the inlet bulb. Let's go about here, I'd say. Not a big fan of this hose clamp. It's a little bit narrow for my liking, although that gives you a higher pressure on the point. But I did get it from Whitworth, so it's full stainless. If you go to an auto store and get a stainless clamp, the band will be stainless, but quite often the worm drive in here won't be. I know I should probably go home and start again tomorrow when you're getting to the stage where a bolt's started by one thread and you just think, hit it with a rattle gun. You won't strip it, it'll be fine. Alright, let's get this shut-off solenoid reconnected. What next? Throttle cable, let's do that. Alright. So, just going to wind, fitting back. A few hard challenges done today, so let's have a bit of fun. What I've made here is my new catch can. I don't know if I showed this. I was making it in the background up at Adrian's, but I don't think I put any of the footage in, I can't remember now. So, it is finished. Port, airbox drain, starboard, airbox drain in, and drain out. Morning. New day, new enthusiasm. Was pretty tired by the end of yesterday. I reckon I climbed out of that engine bay 50 times at least. Got a jerry can of fuel, brought the primer bulb. Let's just get some fuel into it and should fire right up. Alright, I am going to put the primer bulb in line again. Then we'll disconnect the return line and see if we can prime it until fuel comes out the return line. My understanding is you can push fuel through the fuel pump despite being a positive displacement pump, because there is a little bit of clearance around the gears and things. Alright, seems to be working nice enough. I don't have a hose clamp here at the moment, but it's not popping off. What I think I'll do is just open the bleed valve on this fuel filter. See whether we get any fuel coming out of there first. And go from there. So just squeezing the prime bulb. Got the prime bulb between the tank and the filters. I can see fuel running into that secondary fuel filter, which is after the fuel pump. So that's a good sign. It's getting reasonably firm now. There we go, fuel out there. So definitely full. Now, I think if we can get any fuel to come out the return line, we're home and hosed. Can hear something. There we go. All right. That's pretty good. I think we can call that primed. So, the unit injectors on Detroit's are self-bleeding, but you do need fuel pressure fed to them in order for them to do that. I'm going to undo the primer bulb and just get rid of it. Battery switch is off.
Adrian kindly came down to Brooklyn and met me to go for the first sort of run-in cruise with the engine, just to make sure everything was all right. We even hit 9 knots, albeit going with the tide. Water's now almost up to 27 degrees Celsius, which is nice too.
Say, it might have taken quite a bit of work, but it is very nice being back out in the water again. First night on board Renko in a while, and feeling much more relaxed, which is great. Moored over here for the night, so time to head back, make some dinner, go to bed. Before we wrap up, I'll just duck down to the engine bay and I'll give you a tour of all the improvements that have actually been made. There was a surprising amount that got done beyond just the repairs that needed to be done. We now have a new air compressor. Got the coolant lines feeding it. The only coolant leak I have is a tiny leak here. This being the stainless pipe from a beer keg, doesn't have any sort of barb, serrations or bead on it. So I think I'll try just double clamping it, put a T-bolt clamp I can get a bit tighter, and we should be able to stop that no problem. Then these are the oil lines. I can now suck the oil out of the engine from here, so no need to get down to a sump drain plug, which is awesome. We also just upgraded the bolts to these Allen key heads because you couldn't get a socket onto these bolts. They're too close to the base of the flange, so once again, just another nice little improvement. Here's the catch can I made. This has currently got a 72 to 82 T-bolt clamp around here. I'm going to buy a second one for here. And what that actually gives you is a flat base. and then I'm going to work on ways to mount it. One hose to the starboard drain, one hose to the port side drain, and a little valve here that we can open to siphon it out in a space down below here. Moving right along, this pipe, this coolant pipe, is much neater now. It used to come up as a big sort of rubber hose all the way around. It means we've got a diagonal flow from top aft to bottom forward here. Then to make that work properly, we've got this little copper line here, so it's impossible for air to get trapped in this high point. It will always then self-bleed constantly back to the header tank. Then down here we now have a T-piece with a mechanical oil pressure gauge. So I've always got an oil pressure reading both in the engine bay and one I can rely on. Should there be any sort of electrical failure, I can just look straight to that. I am tempted to replace this one too with a capillary going forward, given it's only a couple of metres to the dash from here, not far at all. Alternator, didn't show it on camera. I didn't paint it obviously, which would have been nice perhaps, but that actually got completely disassembled. Bearings were greased, contacts cleaned up, all that sort of thing. So that alternator's actually had a bit of a service as well. A lot of these connectors I've replaced with these waterproof connectors like this. Same type all over the boat. Everything that's got two core that's connected or disconnected has this exact connector. So they're interchangeable. I've got spares, but it means we can replace things really quickly, nice and sort of plug and play. Also, once I put them together, they're much more waterproof than the original spade connectors and things I had been using. So that's much better too. A bit more painting I've missed. That's all right, lots to go. This is the little receiver for the air compressor. Relatively small one. I'm going to mount it up here, like as far into the corner as I can, out of the way. And I may end up sort of daisy chaining 2 or possibly even 3 of them, depending how much air we use. But no point going nuts. I'll put one in, see if it's enough air. If it's not, we'll add a second rather than getting a bigger one. What I will take with me, I've been doing a little bit as we go. Adrian told me where he got the Alpine Green made up. The main spray paint that Adrian did has a hardener in it, which I presume this obviously doesn't, given it's a cam, but means we can touch up any little spots with the exact same green, so it's nice having a couple of those on board. And obviously you get a few knocks when you're installing it, so it's nice to be able to put a bit of this on and keep it looking nice. Oh yes, our little painted GM. Okay, let's come around here. The new exhaust, I welded up, comes out and up. Reasonably good low point, so any water, you know, we could drain, but we've got the flap on the exhaust, so I really don't see how any water's going to get in, which is nice. Now, the reason we did this is it allowed us to do this. Previously, I had this flange, which is a factory Detroit part, went to a pipe. That pipe came out and went down. Then I had a hose with 2 hose clamps going to this switch that was actually in the wrong orientation. Then I had a hose and 2 hose clamps going to a plastic reducer from 2 inch to 1 inch. Then I had a hose and hose clamps going to the seacock. Now we've got bronze flange, sensor, water flow sensor, reducer, all in bronze, 1 hose clamp to the seacock. So neater and stronger. I can neaten this up further. I just want to be able to use the boat. So at some point I'll find a way. These seacocks here, there's fittings here. You can get 45 degree, straight, 90, whatever. So it looks like I'm better off swapping back to a straight fitting, which I think I have at home. And that'll just stop that bowing out like it does. These are the oil cooler lines for the gearbox. They are attached with some clamps and some brackets with some little P-clips, the rubber P-clamps. I'm going to get more of those P-clamps to do this fuel line properly as well. We now have an exact level on our dipstick, so we're no longer guessing about the level of oil we should have in it. We had another fuel filter mounted here. With that gone, we could bring these in. I'll show you those from the top. And it meant we could finally turn this oil filler straight up. So filling oil is very easy and checking oil is easy and accurate, which is great. We now have the Vitus fuel filters. They're in parallel, so you can swap them underway without turning the engine off. The outlet now goes straight into the fuel pump. So we've eliminated that, essentially that third filter, which means we now have almost no vacuum on here. That vacuum goes up as the filter gets blocked. It's an indicator that it's getting blocked. So that's running at a really low vacuum, which is great. Good free-flowing fuel at the moment. And we've just got the primary filter here from Vitus and the factory secondary filter there. Under here, we now have a cast deep sump pan. We originally just had the shallow pressed pan, and it was pretty woeful. With the shallow pan, the oil pressure needle would move, would bounce, as you would see. Obviously it was sucking air to do that. Now the needle's just rock solid. Adrian changed the pressure regulator springs, both of them, in the engine, so we have higher oil pressure and steady oil pressure, so that's a massive improvement. That was definitely something that was worrying me. The oil leak was bad, but the oil pressure was potentially catastrophic, so that's great. We also now have the correct oil expander rings in, the naturally aspirated ones, not the turbo ones, and we have the gudgeon pin seals done correctly, so that's all our oil leaks taken care of as well. All right, let's go up where we can see the last round of things. Anybody who says that you shouldn't treat objects like women hasn't seen my Detroit. We now have the shut-off flap as a safety feature, which we didn't have before, so it's really nice to have that. Thanks to Andrew for giving me that. This used to be, once again, brass, then it went to a rubber hose, to this, to rubber hose and in, and it sat further out. It was the reason we couldn't have the oil filler upright, and it was getting around the other oil filter that was here. Having this oil filter gone meant we could also get a straighter shot with the throttle cable, and made the new bracket to raise that up to the right height. So that's pulling much straighter now, which is good. Here's the little air intake for the air compressor. Can't think of anything else, maybe something I missed. Yes, you might remember from the early videos, this bolt had stripped the thread, so that was helicoiled, and another one up there actually got repaired. So 2 little oil leaks fixed finally as well. I guess another little change is that when Adrian tuned this, he also slightly retarded the injector timing so that the compression has built up a little bit more heat in the cylinders before it fires the injectors, just to get a slightly more complete burn, given I don't do a huge amount of really hard full throttle running. Things like sonar searches do involve quite a bit of slow, just mowing the lawn backwards and forwards, looking for things. Well, thanks for watching. Huge thanks to Adrian for all his time and expertise. You did a great job on the engine, mate, and I really, really appreciate it. Next job is to start installing a few more pieces of the Raymarine navigation gear that we need to start heading up the coast, because the plan is looking like taking Renko up to the Barrier Reef for this winter. All right, well, take care. I'll catch you then. See ya. Parrot stealing all your food, Daffy. Ah, corn. Looks like you got your own one. Given you got a face covered with corn, I guess you got one too. You just dropped it. Oh, well, looks like you're all happy. Let's go get Daisy up. Come on, little Daisy. Up you get. Come on. Indeed. Oh, look at you sitting on an egg again. Come on. There you go, you can have the rest. Let Daisy at least try to eat some, even though she's hopeless. And it's a really slow eater. Alright, there we go. Alright, now say pieces of 8.
Pieces of 8.
Better with a shirt on, she doesn't grip so badly. You're not sliding off now.
Pieces of 8.
So she's the one with the red dot on her head.
Yeah,
Let's
she's
do that.
always been the friendly one.
Friendliest one, yeah.
Her and him, actually.
Yeah, right.
He was the first one to eat out of my hand.
Yeah, right. Basically right.
Come on. Come on, you know you want to. You eat
Thinking
all-
about it.
He's crawling through the tree now. He's trying to get closer and closer. Without actually flying over here. Come on. Come on. Come on.
It's like, I want what she's having, you know. It's like Daffy. Yeah.
Hey. You missed out, huh?
Now you're covered in paint. I was covered in paint yesterday.